Hilarie Gaylin is a coach, and her passion is to help people and organizations grow their best selves. She specializes in customizing material to meet her clients' unique needs. She brings over 20 years of experience in facilitation, training, instructional design, and organizational development. Her focus includes management and supervision, team building, business writing and grammar, professional development, strategic planning, change management, and diversity and inclusion. She's previously worked at the United States Senate, the Capitol Visitors Center, the U.S. District Court, Eastern District of Virginia, and the Clerk's Office. She's a trained coach for both individuals and organizations. She's earned her master's in education from George Washington University and bachelor's from Bryn Mawr. So please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you so much, Ken. I'm so honored and privileged. It's easy. I, like everybody else in the DC area, I'm struggling with pollen. I'm not sick. It's just whatever creepy crawly stuff is out there. So forgive me if I have to do this every once in a while. So some of you heard my biggest passion right now is coaching. I loved the fact that a lot of you were showing up with very resilient vocabulary this morning, and so I'm going to pull on my training skills, but also some of what I've learned as a coach, or reinforce. We're going to do a couple of things, because I'll just share with you, I had a really rough year this past year, and I knew I was getting my next series of coaching classes starting in June, and I was hoping and praying that it would help me reground myself. And so I'm sharing some of what, sort of a light version of some of what I got in that class with you all this morning, because it's hard, and it's a marathon. And so I'm really excited to be able to share. I do want this to be a conversation. And so the first thing actually that I want to do is just make sure that, let's see if it will work from here or not. I might have to move that over. How close do I have to be?
Should be good.
Huh. Am I not doing it? Thank you, Ken.
Sure.
This is the part that I always fall down on the job on. It's the small things that defeat me.
Yeah. I'm not seeing here, so the battery might be out,
Okay.
so we may have to just...
All right, I'll just stand
Sorry
here.
about that.
It's all right. I'm practiced at... we always have a workaround, right, my friends? That's what we do. So I will move back. But I don't know who this kid is, but I just loved the expression on his face. What are your expectations? Because one of the things I've learned as a trainer is in a class like this, you likely have come in looking for Hilarie to distribute the magic wands. And sadly, although I have requisitioned them, they never they always seem to be on back order, Ken. It looks like you have the same kinds of problems. And sir, if you'll kindly join me, because I'm going to ask you to chat with people at some point. So I make people forced to be friendly. No, back there isn't going to help you either. I'm going to move behind Gina. She's kindly making a spot for you. Thank you, Gina. Welcome. And sorry, didn't mean to call you out. Time for perfect reflection. So let me just do a quick survey, and if you just came in wanting to see what I had to say, that's fine. But anybody come in with something specific you want, so I'll tell you right now if I can do that for you or not.
Inspiration.
Inspiration. I hope we will get that for you. We'll co-create it together, Diana. Good. Thank you.
How to remain hopeful.
Good. I hope we have some tools for you as well. What else?
Networking.
Networking. Yeah, so Ken did that for you. I can't take any credit for that whatsoever, but just by being in the room, you'll get a chance to network. And did you miss the name tags? I've tried to call people by name instead of hey you, so that would, thank you, Ken. Good. Anything else? All right, well good. You're not asking for magic wands, so I'm hoping that he actually can deliver on your expectations this morning. So please help me as we go, and we'll see how this goes. I'm going to wander back and forth to do the slides.
To be cheerful in the job search process, resilient enough until get the income.
Yeah, good. Cheerful in the process. Hang in, be resilient enough until the money will come, right? Because ideally we want you all to get the salaries, and as the next person is going to talk to you about in next week, I think, or in the, they're going to have a conversation about loving your job, and hopefully there'll be a piece of that in here too. So take a minute with your newfound partners, introduce yourselves to them, and have a conversation about how would you define resilience. Okay? How would you define resilience? What does it mean to you when we say resilience?
That's not.
I have no partner, so
We're a team. We're a team.
I'll be afraid of
That's
you.
true. All right, so how do you define resilience?
Resilience, resilience is sitting down and being composed in any situation. I said literally in this case, as I sat down.
So I feel like, especially when they talk about 2 weeks, when they all say that it's always a matter of out of everything.
Okay, and I'm going to interject. You're going to get a chance to deepen this a little bit, and I forgot to teach you my teacher trick to get your attention without my bellowing over you. So if I need to get your attention, I'm just going to throw my hand up in the air. And when you see that, this is really hard. Everybody always puts their hand up in the air. That's the easy part. The hard part is I'm going to ask you to stop talking at the same time. And that's easier said than done, I know from personal experience. But I will jump in as and then we'll ask to share. So what are some of the, just call out, what are some of the definitions of resilience you all can?
Composure.
Composure, nice.
Overcome challenges.
Overcome the challenge.
Until, overcome challenges to continue until objective is achieved.
Okay. Good. Thank you, Bonnie, for getting the conversation started. Let's hear from somebody else. Grounded. Grounded, nice.
Unstuck.
Unstuck, is that what you said? Good. That's another hand.
Yeah. Intrinsically knowing that you can succeed.
Nice. Okay, now you're going to make me spell intrinsically on easel paper. I think that's right.
And I would say continue to stay inspired and motivated.
Yeah.
And I developed something called pitbull faith. You just bite down on your
Pitbull
goals.
face?
Faith.
Oh, faith. Okay, that makes much more, but I'm getting the way those pit pills look like they got. Okay, and I'm sorry, I lost the word. Thank you. I got distracted by pitbull.
Love that.
Great. Interesting.
Yeah, you visualize it, right?
So as always, you all are doing the work for me, as I anticipated you would, because you're smart, knowing people, right? So the official sort of short dictionary definition of resilience is closest to this one, okay? It's being able to move past difficulties. And the reason why I have this gentleman up here is an image often given about resilience is it's like a rubber band springing back, and I know officially this isn't really a rubber band, but I like the image of it stretches us, and we have to stretch. Resilience is one of those many things that's like a muscle, and we can build it up. So we all have natural resilience. They've done some research. I always say they because I don't know who these they are, but I never get to read the actual studies. I get to read about the actual studies, but I do like the research. So I peppered that into our conversation here. So some people are naturally more resilient than others, but we can all practice and get better at it. And I love all of this nice embeddedness of your definitions because we're going to build on this deeper understanding that you all obviously have a little bit later on. Okay, so let's see what we can do with that. So lots of different strategies, and I'm also embedded in this class. You'll see a couple of times I'm going to ask you to tell a positive story to yourself. And for those of you who have heard of it before, it's a very light touch on something called appreciative inquiry. And appreciative inquiry is a tool, I see some of you nodding, that is designed to help us. It's a problem-solving tool, but even calling it that does it a little disservice, because instead of the metaphor often used is instead of looking at the potholes in the road and trying to fix the potholes, you look at where the road is already smooth and you build off that. So as you all in your definitions have already adequately and beautifully demonstrated, you have a resilience vocabulary, literally and figuratively already. So I'm going to ask you to now be more consciously confident about that and tell yourself a story of your own resilience. So think of a recent time when you showed resilience. It could have been in the job search. It could have been, I have a very beautiful, loving, slightly dysfunctional, like everybody else's family. And sometimes it takes resilience to deal with them. It could be, whatever the situation was. So take for a second, think about what was the situation, what kind of resilience did you show, and how did you access that resilience? How did you call upon it? Was it just naturally there? Did you have to do a little positive self-talk? Did you call a friend? So go ahead and just jot down, everybody have a copy of the handout? There's a space there for some notes.
Actually, some of the even pages that look like it got cut off on the
Okay.
bottom.
So if, I meant to bring an extra pad of paper and I forgot, but.
No.
Look at it.
I'm talking about it cut off.
Okay, so you can see that you
No,
can
flip it over.
out of the top.
How did yours come out?
He's just luckier than you are.
No, don't worry.
Michelle, is this an extra?
We got more.
Okay. Here's an extra.
No, I think a lot of the copies came out.
We're good?
All right, but just somewhere to take notes. You don't have to write a formal narrative here. We just want to see what you can access about it. So just take a minute or two and think about that, and then just jot down some notes for yourself. A time when you showed resilience. We have this beautiful board of definitions here for you. If you're like, wait, what is resilience again? Take a look at these, all of these nice options here for you. And as I said, the official dictionary definition is something like bouncing back, overcoming, pushing past challenges. But the rest of that is really helpful vocabulary for you. Just take a couple minutes and do that. Don't worry, I'm putting it back up that drop table. Somebody have a question?
What are the different kinds of resilience?
Good thought, hold it please, we'll get there, I promise. Okay, take another minute to finish up wherever you are. So I am a storyteller myself, and I know as human beings we are storytellers. We don't have time for your stories today. I apologize. So those of you who are coming to lunch can share the story. What I want to hear right now is just what kind of resilience did you show and how did you access it? So don't tell us the story, just get to the happy ending. Okay? So for instance, I'll just model it for you, what I'm looking for here. So my resilience showed up in actually getting some coaching, and I knew that I was going to take this class. Okay, so that's all I'm looking for here. So we'll start us off. Bonnie, I'm going to let somebody else break the ice for us for a change, and we'll get to you. Good. Or not. Go for it. No, it's good.
I was in a bad situation, abusive boss, and
Yeah, so no story, just
No story.
resilience.
resilience. I decided my approach was to think of what I wanted, how I wanted to respond
Okay.
with tolerance and consider the mission objective. So I kept telling myself, who am I? I'm tolerant, and I keep the mission objective as primary.
Good. All right, so that's exactly what we're looking for. Thank you. Okay, so conscious competence. She got out of the loop that she was in from the horrible situation, as we all do. We have these things in coaching language. They're called saboteurs. I always think of these little bat-like things with fangs, but yours may look differently. And your mission, right? Really huge. Your sense, and that's the heart of this class actually that I'm bringing to you this morning is really reminding yourself of who you are as your best self, because that's what we are as human beings, is this beautiful sense of purpose and values. And when we bring our best selves to the table, much beautiful, gorgeous, exciting stuff comes from it. Good, thank you, Bonnie, so much. Okay, I saw a hand in the back. What were you going to say?
When I changed my thinking from a victim to an
Into,
able
Yeah.
ability to be ability.
victim, somebody can spell it. Victim too. Yeah, so I should not butcher this because I worship at the shrine of Mr. William Shakespeare, but he said something like there is nothing good or ill, but thinking makes it so. And that is so true. We as human beings, if we go, and we're hardwired to go to the negative, so that's going to be the temptation. We're much more practiced at it. You know, I always call that the Eeyore syndrome from Winnie the Pooh. You know, the donkey standing out in the forest going, "It's my birthday and nobody's going to remember it. And if they do remember it, they won't bring me anything I want." And, you know, we all do that. So if you are consciously competent and change that, I have the power. And you do. Nice. Good. What else?
I'm focused on my value.
Nice. Yeah, it's so easy to let that go in the heat of the moment, and so resonant when we can grab back hold of it. Nice. Wow. All right, well, nobody else has to share, but hopefully you have reminded yourself of a time that you did show resilience, because one of the things that they say is a way to be resilient is to remember how you've been resilient in the past. I love this image. I think it's the tortoise from The Tortoise and the Hare crossing the finish line, but he looks so beat up, you know, it looks like it's been a long, hard slog to the finish line, and yet look at the smile on his face, right? So we have triumphed in the past. We will triumph again. And actually I was talking to my mom last night, because she's also been going through a rough time. And she said, well, I know what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to think of the people who have it worse than I do. And I said, actually, that's okay. But the research has actually shown, and I don't know about for you, I was raised on guilt. So when I think about the people who have it better than I do, then I feel guilty, like, what is my problem that I am struggling with this? And there are people, who can't even have food and water in Puerto Rico right now. Why can't I be, in that capacity? So the research has actually shown that the exercise I just had you do, focusing on your own winners, reminding yourself that you do have this capacity for resilience, is actually a much more powerful tool. And I forgot to say this, but please, if you have questions as we go, I know I'm the kind of student that I hate having to hold my questions until the end, so if a question occurs to you, just blurt it out, okay? Questions before we move on to the next one? So hopefully a lot of this is reminders. I didn't have those magic wands, so no brand spanking new, because there's a lot of this out in the world right now about resilience, about mindfulness. But I think, again, what we do is we get into our ruts and we forget to be consciously confident about some of this stuff. So, great. Okay, so I have to tell you, this is why I love the internet. I found this picture. Just looking at this picture as I was preparing for the class, I love this picture. I wish I could give credit to the random photographer whose work was posted on the web. But so I don't know if you know this. This is so cool, my friends. They have done research that just looking at pictures of trees helps us in 10 different ways. And being outside is even better, but the percentage, it's something like 15% difference between looking at a picture of a tree, and I think there are all kinds of other benefits to being outside. You're walking, you're moving your body, all the exercise stuff, the breathing, but it's everything from mental capacity, it helps us learn, it helps us retain better to look at pictures of trees and to look at trees. It eases our blood pressure, it's calming for the heart. I mean, just you cannot go wrong by looking at a tree. So, and this idea of mindfulness, of being in the moment. As human beings, we're one of the few creatures we don't really know. I would bet dolphins probably can do this because they're so smart. But we know that we have this great capacity to plan ahead and also to worry ahead. I know I'm with my people. I see you all suffer from the same things, because it's not like I'm standing up on this, mountaintop. I have not achieved this. It's a constant. We all have to work at this all the time, right? But being out in nature, taking that moment to breathe in where we are, to savor the food that we get to eat, to see the beauty of the fall as the seasons change, to do anything that makes your heart sing is hugely important, especially in a time of change and transition, because most of us do not deal with change and transition well, and there's a grief associated with that. You have to let go of the old before you have room and space for the new. So really, really important, be good to yourself. We'll talk about that a little bit more. It's all wrapped in together. But I just love this particular picture so much. So find something like this, print it out, put it by you, take a look at it. Questions or comments about this? Okay, really important. This actually looks like somebody helping somebody else, and that's really important too. Our network, our people, the folks we can go to, but it's really important to be self-compassionate. And the thing that I think sums up self-compassion the best is, would you talk to a good friend the way you talk to yourself? No. Right? Would you ever say, okay, I have lots of saboteurs, so I'll just share because they're right out there to the fore. What a stupid thing to do. Would you ever say that to a good friend? Probably not, right? So to me, that encapsulates self-compassion in a nutshell. If you were trying to comfort a friend, what would you say in this situation? What would you say? You'd probably say, we all go through tough times in our life. It's temporary. I'm here for you. And yet we can't say that to ourselves. somehow that's not appropriate or not acceptable. And the other thing, and again, very guilty of this myself, what goes first? The magic triumvirate: sleep, exercise, nutrition, right? We always go to the, okay, I'm gonna drown my sorrows in whatever your food of choice is. In college, it used to be Haagen-Dazs ice cream. I'll just give it a quick plug. In fact, a friend of mine rewrote Billy Joel's, can't remember the title of the song, the a cappella song he did. And her new line was, "I can't refute it, Haagen-Dazs is therapeutic." But really, really important to be kind to ourselves. And that's hard for most of us to do. As achieving people, we feel like we have to crack the whip. And yet we know, when we've had bosses who have cracked the whip versus bosses who have offered praise and appreciation and carrots, with whom do we do better? Right? The praise, of course. So why can't we do that for ourselves?
What happens if, I'm trying to figure out how to word this, all you get is negativity thrown at you, and when you try to be positive and to do better, it just falls flat. How can you be self-compassionate in that case?
So what would you say to your best friend if that happened to him or her?
Just keep the faith.
Right? And then provide other tools. And we're going to look at some of those tools. It's hard. I am not being glib about this. It is hard. And it's normal to feel defeated. It's normal to feel, before I went to that class, that coaching class in June, I have a tiny little desk at home. It's got a small little space underneath it, and all I wanted, the image that kept coming up to me was, I just want to crawl under that desk, right? So that's when and by the way, it's really kind to ask for help, because you're getting something out of it, and the people who love and care about you, and Linda, I would lay money with absolute certainty that you have people who love and care about you. I can just tell you're a beautiful person.
It's interesting because somebody was talking to us probably about a year ago. Basically, in a nutshell, they said the ones who are the first to offer help are often the last ones to ask for help.
Yeah. And yet, think about what a boon it is. It's a gift you can give the people who care about you to help them find a way in to help you. And research has shown we get a little serotonin boost, which is the happy drug in our brains, when we help somebody. So you actually are doing your friends a favor by helping them help you. And nobody likes, none of us, think about yourself as a friend, a family member. You don't like to see somebody you care about in pain. That's a horrible feeling. So, good, thank you for sharing. Anything else before we move on? This is hard. This one is really hard. Kristen Neff, I think it's Kristineneff, professor in Texas, has done a lot of really interesting research on self-compassion, and she has a little mantra that you can do, and it goes something like this. This is a really hard time right now. I am suffering. And if that seems too melodramatic, you can leave off the I am suffering. And then it's the reminder of our common humanity. Everybody hurts. I think of that song, I can't tell you the group, but everybody hurts sometime, right?
R.E.M.
Thank you. See, that's what I like. We're building this together. And then just a gentle touch over your heart. May I give myself the compassion I need to get through this rough time. And you can say whatever words make sense to you. It helps, it really does. Good, thank you all for sharing. This, I love the fact that we can do this together. Okay, and so connection. So the other side of that self-care piece, Maslow's hierarchy of needs from like the 60s, 70s psychologist, the pyramid, I'm sure you've all seen it at some point, and he basically said, before we meet our basic needs of food, shelter, security, we can't go to the top of the pyramid, which is self-actualization, finding our best selves. That's clearly who we are at our best as humans, but they've also done new research that says right next door to the tip of the pyramid, so the pyramid's a little flatter on the top than it used to be, is connection. So it's so tempting when we're in a trough to crawl under our little melamine desks if we have them. And yet what you really want to do is connect. You want to go out in the world and make those human connections, because that is what is ultimately going to remind you of why we're here. All right. So a couple of things. One of the reasons why change and transition is difficult for us is because there's a lot that we can't control. So it makes sense, research has shown that if we focus on what we can control, that does help us to be more resilient. And there are two things that we have pretty strong control over. Control is an interesting word because there's very little in life that we have absolute control over. But we can control our attitudes and perspectives, and we can control staying true to our values and honoring our life's purpose. And so Viktor Frankl, I have to confess, I will just confess, I really should have read the book. I have not read the book, I've read about the book. But Viktor Frankl was in a concentration camp during the Holocaust. And the way he was able to survive was by saying to himself, I have no control over any aspect of what they are doing to me, except I can control the way I choose to think about and feel about what is going on with me. And he survived amazingly well insofar as it's possible in that situation, and went off to found a whole school of psychology called, I think, logotherapy, based on this idea. So everything can be taken from the man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And so just reminding of ourselves that that is a power we have. So I'm Jewish, and we just heard on Yom Kippur, the part of the Bible that God says, I have put before you good and evil. Choose good that you may live. And that's, I think, part of this. Religious or not, I don't mean to bring religion into it. I'm just saying that is built into kind of our Western philosophy. And even if you're not from Western philosophy, I think most spirituality practices have this idea that we as human beings have that power. And that is a huge and an awesome one. And then Nietzsche, whom apparently Frankl quotes, says, he who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. And I love that because it's like a really nice positive twist on the ends justify the means. So we're going to revisit this. We're going to start with the attitude piece, and then we'll revisit the life purpose. So our attitudes, focus on what we can control, what we choose to do or feel about what is happening. What feels, and here's some questions you can ask. I found these. Carolyn Webb has her own practice now, but she was a former senior advisor at McKinsey, one of the most famous and successful consulting firms on the planet, I believe. And she said these questions help her and can often help other people. What is familiar? So remember, that's what we did. We looked at those stories of your own resilience, and we said, how can I build? How do I have a vocabulary for dealing with this all day? What does that tell me I can do now? Let's just see a show of hands. I'm just curious about this. No, nothing other than, so I was thinking about the little engine that could. Do they still read? Do parents still read? How many of you heard of the story of the little engine that could at some point, right? And so I think I can. I think it can. And you can when you think you can. It's just amazing what we can do. Ford, I think, said whether you think you can or you can't, you're usually right. Okay? What kind of attitude do I want to have about this situation? Words frame our worlds. So if we say, I want to be curious, I want to be inquisitive, I heard a couple of you say that, I heard hope, optimism, then you are more likely to find the data that will support that for you. Given that, what choices do I want to make? And then we're going to choose. It becomes this really nice domino effect where we choose based on that framework that we've established for ourselves. Because if we want to, right, and I think I have this in a slide a little later on too, but I'm just going to throw it in now. So there have been times, I will freely confess, that I'll say to a loved one, I had a really bad day. And what I want to do is go through the whole litany, right, the whole recitation. And every once in a while someone will say to me, did anything good happen today? And lo and behold, when they ask me that, why can't I do that for myself, right? I'm practicing that. But lo and behold, when they ask me that question, what happens? I think of something good that happened. And so instead of throwing out the whole day, I'm like, okay, that was bad, but I had a really nice smile from a stranger, and we exchanged a moment of human connection. It can be that simple, and it can turn things around if you let it. If you don't want to be the Eeyore in the forest, because there's some fun in that, I will confess. Sometimes wallowing is nice, you know, right? We have to do that from time to time, but we can choose. And then again, so here's where I think it might be a little bit of an issue for some of us, because the what can I learn from this sometimes becomes yet another way for us to secretly beat ourselves up. I can learn from this that I am an idiot. No, no, no. That's probably not the most helpful thing, right? What expands my vocabulary of resilience from this might be a better way to frame. Questions or comments about this one? I see nodding. Looks like it's landing, making sense. Good. Okay, so I love this. There are lots of techniques for reframing our perspectives. Again, some random person on the internet, I don't think this is from the actual movie, but anybody else ever experienced this? I hate it when I plan my day and no one follows the script. I had a beautiful plan till other human beings got involved, right? And a long time ago, I think I'll give credit to it, I think it's from the book Anne of Green Gables, which I read 20,000 times when I was a kid. And someone, I think the narrator in the book says, humor is nothing more than a sense of perspective. And I thought that was really cool, because when you think about it, what humor does is it enables us to take a step back, just a little bit, from that. I don't even have to put words to it. You all are going, yeah, my body's been in that shape too, right? And when you have that moment of humor, you can take a little bit of a step back, and it also puts it in the framework again of being human. I always think again, all right, this table right here has been all my song referencers, so let's see, Linda and Bonnie, what you can do with this one. I think it was a one-hit wonder. And the chorus was something like, you're only human, you're supposed to make mistakes. The guy would do it like that. Does that sound familiar to anybody? I hallucinated it. I do that sometimes. Okay, but I do think of that song from time to time, like where it's not supposed to get it right. I keep waiting for that invitation to perfect land, and it, like those magic wands, just never arrives on my doorstep. I don't know why that is. So humor, great tool. I just love this picture. I had such a good time prepping for this class. And I don't know if you can see, but he's actually wearing real glasses on the top of his head. So, but, and let me just look, because I knew that I made a note of something I really wanted to say to you about this long view. So I like this. This is popping up in my life a lot. So what I love about the universe, it's kind to me sometimes. Not only does it give me signs, but because I'm really slow at reading the signs, it gives me more than one chance at them. So over the last few weeks, I've heard a lot of every no is one step closer to a yes. Have you heard that before? Right? And so, and I will also share with you, so in case you haven't figured this out, no comments about my ability, right? But I did a tiny little bit of theater training a long time ago. Tiny little bit. It's good because it enables me to be a little wilder and crazier up here in your service than I used to be, I think. But I had an audition teacher. I took auditioning because I'm really a very shy person. And he said, there are some jobs you should be glad you do not get. right? And we've all gotten some of those jobs and then had to leave them. So the long view, maybe I wasn't supposed to get that job. Maybe I'm learning something as I go through this process that the right job is just around the corner. And somebody, some helpful, kind stranger on the internet said, think about the amount of time you're spending in your job search. Think about how much time you've spent employed. And my hope and wish for the vast majority of you, at least, is that one way counterbalances the other, right? That we've spent most of our lives employed, and these periods of transition, these troughs, they feel oppressive, they feel like they will go on forever, and yet ultimately they don't. We find ways. We find new strategies. We find that perfect job that was hidden right behind the one that looked perfect but wasn't, right? And sometimes it's also, again, it's a way of stepping back and saying, okay, 3 years from now, am I going to remember the mean thing that this prospective employer said to me? Hopefully not, because that means you're not being self-compassionate enough, right? So sometimes just taking that step back and saying, what is the long view on this? And Ken, I meant to honor you earlier in the connection piece and say, I've been doing flying without my notes because I just love this material so much, but I did want to remember to say to you that in the connection piece, and I can please speak to this if you feel like it, that one of the best things you can do while unemployed is volunteer. And it's because it gives you that human connection, it expands your network, it gives you a sense of living into your sense of mission and your life's purpose. And sometimes it opens doors to jobs, but it gives you a sense of, I am giving. Ken, do you want to say anything more than that? You don't have to. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Happy to. And there are many ways that you can help here at 40 Plus. But another
he didn't pay me to say that.
Another opportunity it offers is for you to exercise or discover some new talents or muscles that you might have thought about in the past, but never have just had a professional opportunity to do that. Whether it's teaching, writing, doing other types of research and other skills that you may have only touched on. So many organizations, whether it's 40 Plus or other groups that you'll connect with, have needs and would welcome your contributions. But let's start here with 40 Plus.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
My name is Michelle. I didn't get that.
I think it's on the
It's on your jacket. It's on your jacket, the left side.
Michelle, there you are.
But just to your point, I volunteered in one area for many years, and then I signed on to volunteer with another group. And my service from the first group informed what I was doing on the second group until I got paid after a while. Just, a small amount, like a stipend for my service. And then ultimately got a job with them. So it really does serve you to give to other people. And if you're serving from your passion, which I was doing what I wanted to do, which is as a voice artist, it got me a job.
Yeah.
So it really does help.
And it gets us, again, out of that loop of sitting. It's the good news, bad news, I'm going to sound like I'm 90,000 years old now. But the good news, bad news about all the electronic ways we have of job hunting is that we can sit inside in this little tiny, bubble. And I just actually heard a presentation from someone, and she said only 15% of jobs are found through online application. So it's a good reminder, get out, you never know where, one thing is going to, especially in this town, 6 degrees of separation, forget about it. It's like 3 degrees of separation and you're going to find somebody. So thank you everybody. So yeah, and just, that long view can be really, really helpful. So I love this one. Another way is to practice, and it is a practice. Again, we're hardwired to go negative first, so we have to remind ourselves sometimes to be optimistic, like the person who would say to me when I'd say I haven't had a terrible day, well, did anything good happen? And usually I can find something. Immense body of research now from Martin Seligman at the University of Pennsylvania, and lots of other folks about happiness and positivity, and you can practice gratitude. You can, and research has shown, like if you do a gratitude, any kind of writing about gratitude, like 20 minutes before you go to sleep, it gives you better sleep. It gives you longer sleep. People breathe better when they're, isn't that astonishing? Like we're hardwired on some of this amazing stuff. And it can be, so I've seen some cool things that one gal challenges herself, she writes down 3, she just has a list of 3 things. Don't make it, like for me, what I tend to do is I make it be, okay, I have to write a page about gratitude every night. That doesn't happen, right? It can be a list, just 3 things. And what she does is she challenges herself to find 3 different things every day. So as she's going through the day, she's looking for new things to be grateful for. Now, we are capable as human beings of corrupting anything. So I read a work of fiction where this husband and wife had this practice, and the husband was kind of just doing it because the wife asked him to. And it became so oppressive to him that he almost would shove people in the gutter so he could pull them out again. Because he didn't know how to, so don't make it be yet another way to beat we can all do that, we can beat ourselves up. I have a friend who does a gratitude journal every morning. She's a teacher, and she gets up at God bless her, 4 o'clock in the morning. And so the first thing that she does in her gratitude journal every morning is she says, I am grateful for coffee. Yeah. She goes from there. But it, like on any other muscle, we can practice this. And there's some cool stories out there on the internet. A guy was challenged to write, I think, 70 thank you emails, thank you notes to people, and he didn't think he could do it. And he decided to do it because I think he got something free at the other end, like a free class or something. Ken, do you know the story? And at first he felt like it was really onerous. And this is what happened to him. He got responses back. He had people respond to him and say, oh my gosh. And again, in this deep, dark period that I was going through a few months ago, I went out of my way, because I know about this research, and I sent thank yous to people who had helped me along the way. I reconnected with some people from other parts of my life, and every single time I got gratitude back. It was so spectacular. I can't even tell you. And we tend to be pretty pro forma about a lot of greetings in this country. So, hi, how are you? Right? I'm not really asking you how you are. And one of the things I learned is none of us feels seen enough. And gratitude is an amazing tool to let somebody know that you have seen their soul and are grateful for it. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. You don't have to have changed your life. So, and it feels so good. It's like taking a beautiful bath. Bon, you were going to say something. So I encourage you on this one. This one is, I have found maybe I'm hardwired more easily in this direction. The optimism is harder for me, but the gratitude just keeps building and building and building. Okay, so back to what we can control. This is the same slide from before. Give you little reminders about attitudes and perspectives. Now I really want to delve in a little bit, give you a little chance to do some consciously competent thinking about your values and your life's purpose this morning. Just small topics. And we're just going to do a very light touch, but hopefully give you some reminders about the amazing human being that each of you is. This sparks of because we all have it. We all have it. And it's easy at a time of trouble to lose sight of that spark. And it's so important to take it, cup it in our hands or in our friends' hands or in our loved ones' hands. Bring it back to life. Okay, so your values and your life purpose is really ultimately what it's all about for us as human beings, right? if we just feel like we're just treading water, we're going through our days, then we're like the robots. Right? There was a story in the Post about this security robot at National Harbor. I don't know if you guys see it. I go to the style section first now these days. Work my way up to the front page of the Post. But, and it was written as if the robot was speaking, which of course is not actually the case of this robot. The reporter was personifying her. But even, I was laughing because I was prepping for this class as I was reading this, and I was like, even in this animation of this robot, the reporter felt the need to give her a sense of purpose. That's how embedded it is to who we are as humans. So I have an extra handout for you. We're gonna do another appreciative inquiry exploration that's gonna lead to a chance for you to articulate your values. So right now, and you can start if you want, but I'll give you official direction. I'm just going to ask you to do the in the zone part, and we'll get to the values part in a little bit. It must be muggy in here today. It's all sticking together a little bit. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not being very efficient, Bonnie. Would you mind passing that? Thank you. So think about a time when you were in the zone at work, when you lost all track of time and were just humming along, feeling excited and firing on all cylinders. And if sadly this did not happen for you at work, then think about a hobby, think about a volunteer, think about singing in a choir or whatever it was. What were you working on? Who was with you? What inspired those feelings? What was important about it? And then just write down some key words. So for instance, for me, I know when I really feel like I'm in the zone, I'm being creative, I'm collaborating and sharing, I'm offering thoughts and feelings to folks. So those might be some of the words that I would write down. Take a few minutes and do that for yourselves, please. Would another minute be helpful for folks? Yeah, okay, so take another minute and wrap this part of it up for us, please. I see some of you quick studies that you are leaping ahead. Okay, so I've left you space for 5, so, a little kinder than Ken, but not by much. It's hard to limit ourselves, right? But this is going to help focus this exercise. So across the top line where it says, what are your values, pick the 5 most important words from your in the zone experience. So again, it might be, someone in here said you're really good with details. Who is that? Okay, so Michelle, it might be something about making all the pieces fit together, or, whatever it is, and it doesn't, just squeeze it in there. So 5-ish words-ish, or phrases. So as I said, for me, it might be collaboration, and it might be ideas, it might be creativity, it might be give and take, okay, and put 5 across. So in the row across the top. And then what I'm going to ask you to do, and I think when Linda comes back we have even pairs, so that works out a little bit nicely, and we'll just do it by proximity. I think you're all nice people and can talk to each other, so turn to somebody near you. And what you're going to do is have a conversation. We're going to give you about 3 minutes each way, so not a long conversation, but you're going to help each other really refine these words. So here's how it's going to look. If, for instance, I say collaboration, and that's on the top here, then the job of your partner is going to be to say something like, okay, Hilarie, so what does collaboration mean to you? So I might say, on the next line down, I might say sharing. And I might say give and take. And I might say building something together. Okay, and I'll just stop there for now. You have a few more lines, or a couple more lines than that. And then together with my partner, I'm going to say, this is my favorite out of all of them. But it could be this one. And then, so what you're going to do is just a little bit of time. Let's do this. Let's give you a chance to work on at least 2 of your words and 2 of your partner's words. And I'll keep an eye on the time and tell you about halfway when you should switch. So do 2 for one person and 2 for another. And I may not have explained this well because I see some blank faces. So when somebody say it back, it's always a good test because usually somebody says it much better than I do. What are you going to do? Okay, you don't understand, so I'll say it again. So each of you has 5 words on the top row of your values chart. You're going to take one of your words, okay, and you're going to have a conversation with your partner about what are some ways you would define that word. And you're going to write those definitions in that column underneath the word. That's phase 1. Phase 2 then is to pick your favorite word among whatever you've got in that column. It could be the word on top, or it could be another one. So let's just go that far, and I'll wander around and interject and see. What questions do you have for me about what I'm asking you to do? Make sense? Yeah?
So we just pick one word?
Right now, we're just going to pick one and see how it goes. I'd like to get your feet wet first. Okay? Okay, so Linda, you had stepped out, but if you wouldn't mind maybe partnering with somebody in the back.
Sure.
Okay, sorry, I'm going to interject 1 second. Again, the temptation is going to be to tell the story behind the words. That's not what this exercise is about. This exercise is about finding words that are resonant and come close, if not, we're doing this in brief. When I do this with my clients as a coach, we spend a lot more time on it, so it's just a little light touch here. So we don't have time. Again, your stories are precious to me, and I am not dismissing them, but this is about finding the words that articulate your values. So you want to just do some synonym work, like you're an online dictionary with your partner. Okay? Sorry.
So, Robert, so what are other ways that you think about that? Well, kind of, she said, for you, or how is that here?
Well, I agree.
Oh, yes.
Know what's going on.
Good, that's exactly what it is.
You could go, if you need a war, if you didn't.
Probably analytical. I try to see things from as many perspectives.
Oh, that's very important. I have
Go ahead, I'm just writing.
So maybe under here, does that coaching? Problem solving?
I recognize something.
Just eavesdropping to make sure I explained it the way that's right.
I was saying that my values and so
Great, you've got a fabulous list, and so each of those would be across the top here, and what you want to do right now is just plumb one of them, like networking, and see what other words come up for you when you say the word networking. Is networking the right word, or is it relationship building, or is it connection? That's what I was saying. Good, you've got a good partner.
areas and issues coming out.
Yeah, so as we finish one list, let's just give your partner a turn and go ahead and do one word for them and help them find all the meanings behind that one.
I don't know. One of the things that's important about unless you strike out the three well, I felt
Your generation
Access to material.
No. So you can go ahead and show another word that's helpful. And unless you're in a spiritual I think I would say 99% is so creative. And that helped
help the members.
And to duty or position?
Like
Want to do another one? Another word?
Yeah, I'll say like sharing.
And so what do you think about that? What do you think? Is that a guy?
It's also like
One word, say it Okay, so I'm going to ask you to bring this conversation to a close. Take a little little time to just honor wherever you are in the conversation?
No, so I'm, they wanted to,
Really,
because I know they think that United people.
So the idea behind this is to, again, sometimes we all use labels, right? And labeled words mean different things to different people at different times, and even to us mean different things at different times. So the idea behind this, and again, you know, this is just a very toes in the water kind of opportunity, and it would be something you could continue on with your own, or with a coach or a mentor or whomever, a good friend, because they may also see qualities in you that you've missed about yourself. Like, oh, Hilarie, every time you show up, it's really important that you not hurt somebody's feelings. And that might not be on my values list, but apparently kindness is a huge value for me, right? Or whatever it might be. My mom said it to me yesterday, so I'm just gonna go with it. I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding, right? Because it's really hard, again, going back to how easy it is for us to beat ourselves up. It's really hard sometimes for us to take the long view and recognize, like, one of the things I realized about a previous job and why I had to leave it was I was not able to honor my values. And it didn't matter that the work itself was interesting, because there was a huge disconnect every day I was walking in, having to put the core of me aside. And it's even harder, I think, because in a job you can find ways, okay, this is bad, but this is good, right? But in your job search, it's easy to go, okay, again, I'm really dating myself with all my references this morning, but anybody ever seen the movie Tootsie? Yeah. Where Dustin Hoffman is trying to make it, right? And he says, you want taller? I can be taller, right? We all want to do that. And when we don't, you know, we go in an interview and it doesn't work out, we say to ourselves, well, if only I had made it clear. So I was a high school English teacher way back when, and I have to tell you, I am really proud of myself, because what they want to do with first year high school English teachers is they want them to take on the yearbook, which is literally a huge job in and of itself, and there's money involved. And I know myself. And I was like, I cannot be your yearbook instructor and be a good high school English teacher, which is what I want to do. I love words. I want to help my students communicate better. I want to share with them my passion for literature. I don't want to do the yearbook. And I lost actually a good number of jobs because I was blunt about that. And I, to this day, happy ending, I did get a job where they did not make me do the yearbook. Then I became the drama teacher, but that was a whole other story, right? I honored my values, right? That was not, I could have done it. I'm responsible, and I know that's a value, and I knew I would have competing values. So I'm going to ask you to now go back into your conversation, and if we go like another 7, 8 minutes, is that okay?
Of course.
And I want to be respectful, so if anybody has to leave, of course. But go ahead with your partners now and talk about, now that you've unearthed 1 or 2 really key values or reminded yourselves of those key values, how can you use your values even more than you're already doing in your job search? To have a little conversation, I think that's sort of where we're getting to. Bonnie, it was such a pleasure. I hope we'll talk. And Janine, so sorry that
I'm sorry I have to
but
leave. This has been extraordinarily wonderful and helpful. And I want to thank you very much for your being here for all of us.
Thank you. Now see what she just did? Expressed gratitude. I'm like, I don't know if you can see, but I'm like 10 inches taller now. And you have contact information for me. So those of you, anybody else need to go? Because I really don't want to be disrespectful about that. So okay to have a conversation about this because it's an important one. And then we'll share out and then we'll be finished. So talk with your partner about how can you honor your, or use your values even more in your job search.
I'm not sure where I'm going to go with that. See, that's the thing, I'm not sure where to go with that. How would you? Where do you I mean, I don't know if I would want to make that focus of the job search. Go in that general direction.
We're in the city.
Okay, so I hate to interrupt. It's always a good sign when I have a hard time getting your attention. So obviously, again, just really a light touch on this, but it's an inquiry that I would love for you to continue to keep evergreen for yourselves as you go through this process. What would you like to share about this? And you don't have to, it can be a very private thing, but anything you want to share about how you can use your values to inform your job search even more than you are already doing.
So,
Oh, sorry.
It's easier to reach me by email.
Go ahead, and then Michelle, you'll be next.
yes. Go ahead. Yes. Yeah.
No, I'm just making sure there's a, that was this one.
My tribe.
Do you have cards?
No, I'm just,
Yes,
I'm
your
trying to
tribe,
get
is that what
something
you
together,
said?
so.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
My name, my tribe.
Yes,
Uh,
it's a good word, isn't it?
Yes. Rather than
Yeah,
getting
that's
into the
probably-
lane.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, there was somebody
working
recommended this
from
by somebody.
identifying, you know, even in discriminating the job announcements,
Yes,
to discard them or to try them,
good,
whether to see whether they are in the tribe,
nice.
in the kind of work that will use my values.
Lovely. Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
Right.
Sorry, Michelle was next, and then you.
She
Okay.
had a great thing
Okay.
that resonates with what he said.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Michelle. Do you mind waiting one more second? I promise you we'll get to you. Please, Eliana.
They talked about
Okay.
researching organizations to see what have they.
What their mission and
What their
values
mission
are.
is.
Nice. Yeah, that's hugely important, isn't it? Why go through that whole shebang if ultimately it's going to be a place that is a disconnect for you? Really nice.
It's important to do it not from their website, but from their news articles written about them and what they.
Really good
Yeah.
point.
They're only going to tell you the best.
Yeah.
You really need to do, and you need to dig beyond the surface.
I think it's okay for me to make this dig, but here's a perfect example that has come up a lot of times recently, is Enron had on their website that they, one of their primary core values was integrity. Really good points, ladies. Thank you so much, Michelle.
John and I were just saying, if you can also go with your gut you know, if you got a sense that something smells.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We have better intuition than we give ourselves credit for. Nice. Anything else? All right, again, really, sorry, Diane, go ahead.
Oh, no, I don't know if anybody else was this way, but all my life until I got older, I've always taken the job because it paid the most, and that was my selection criteria. I mean, I'm an environmentalist, and I even work for the American Petroleum Institute.
The horror!
I left after a year. Probably because of that. So now what's frustrating to me is I have to combine the volunteer work that has been where my heart and soul was for the past 35 years with my job skills and try to merge those together so they mesh.
Good, and that's a great activity to do. That's nice. Good. All right, I'm happy to continue this conversation offline, but just in the interest of coming us to an official close, I will say quickly, so first of all, we have to give Michelle a round of applause. This is Michelle, she was the first one in the room. She gets a free coaching session with me. Thank you for being willing to be my client. I do have flyers. I love to coach. I think it is such a phenomenal way to build up your resilience and to find how beautiful and how gorgeous and how powerful you are and can be in your job search and beyond. So if you want a coaching flyer, I'm happy to share that with you. I do a free demo class, free demo coach. Michelle's going to get that, and the next one if she's so inclined. So happy to chat with you about that. It's really the reason why I'm hyping it so much. I would stand on the street corner and do it for free if I could afford to, but I just love the set of tools involved. And just as you leave, you all have amazing, incredible sparks and talents inside of you. I saw it show up in this room. I know it will show up as you move into your job search. So have self-compassion. Ask yourself this question as you hopefully go singing or whistling or humming out the door. How will you use the spark of you to be more resilient in your job search? Thank you so much for exploring this with me.
Hilarie, thank you. Really appreciate it. So again, this is an opportunity to continue our conversation. If you've obviously met some folks today and continue to find out more about what they're working on and how you might be able to help each other. And again, if you take a second, please give us your input. We really do take this very seriously. We've applied some of the specific suggestions we've received over the last couple of months to help us recruit new speakers, address topics that are important to you, and also make changes to some of our programs. Next week, I think we're going to have a topic that really does build on what we talked about today,